Welcome to the Transformative Principal podcast, where we learn how to be an amazing educational leader. I am your host, Jethro Jones. Are you ready to be a transformative principal? I'm looking for about 10 people who are ready to do what it takes to lead with integrity, find balance, and take your school to the next level. If you're looking to improve your leadership in a measurable way, go to transformativeprincipal.org/mastermind to see if you qualify to join a group of like-minded people who are ready to be the best principals in the country. Welcome to Transformative Principal, episode 199. We are almost there, episode 200. I hope it's going to be a good one. I was getting nervous on those big ones. Am I doing something special enough? Well, this week, I think is good enough that maybe I don't need to do something special. So the title for this episode is Core Values Help Us to Say No. And like we hear about that, but Drew, I'm going to continue my conversation with him from last week. And he is going to talk about how that actually happens, even going so far as to remove the most requested class at a school. That's pretty awesome. And I am excited to be continuing talking with him. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoy this interview with Drew Williams, and please take a moment and share this episode with someone else so that they can learn the awesome things that you are. Did you share it? Okay, go ahead and share it real quick. Not if you're driving. Don't do it if you're driving, but share it with somebody else. Thank you so much. Here's the interview. So one of the things that you said that we just kind of breezed over earlier was you talked about the, what'd you call them? The core values, which are collaborative design, candid feedback, and original work. And I imagine that you didn't come up with those originally, but do you know the story of how those came up, and how are you continuing to push that now in your second year?
So in December of last year, we had a faculty meeting and said, hey, we've ordered the book Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, which is the kind of the Pixar story. And we are going to work as a team to answer the question, why Tuacahn? We always need to be asking the question, why? Why are we teaching what we're teaching? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why does Tuacahn exist? Why is it different than other schools in the area, in the region, in the country? And so we wanted to answer that question. And as I got here a year ago, I was informally asking teachers and students and parents and community members why Tuacahn, and we got 1,000. For every person I asked, I got a different response.
Yeah,
and realized that like many schools, sure, there's a mission statement or a vision statement that's framed and in the office, but do the students and faculty members and parents and community, do they know really what that means? And so that's what we set out. It was to answer one question, why Tuacahn, and it was open to all of the faculty members, and really to be a part of that group. The only prerequisites were that you had to read Creativity Inc., and we were going to use that as our language to have the conversation, because Ed Catmull talks a lot about transformation and change and feedback in that book. And so we wanted to have a work or a text that we could land back on, so it wasn't personal necessarily. So we used that as our text, and then the only other prerequisite was that you had to commit to come to the meetings, so that you were engaged in all of the conversation. And so we had those set out January, February, and March. So we had 16 faculty members that joined in that conversation, and through that conversation, hundreds and hundreds of hours of work. We decided really on 4 areas that we needed help with, and one of them was our grading policy, which was, if a student went to 8 different classes, they had 8 different grading policies.
Yeah.
And some were weighted, some weren't, some were compliance-based, some weren't. We looked at attendance. Attendance at our school was much like it is in public education. Although this is a choice school that they can come to if they want to, why was our attendance, where it was? So as we kind of looked at those things and started researching, one of the aspects is that for every piece of information that, or every change that you want to make or update, it has to be based on evidence, not just out of other high schools, or talk to college professors, talk to the deans of college. We actually reached out and had a conversation with NYU and their musical theater department chair, and talked to him about what it would take to get students into that program and what he's looking for in terms of future students and what they can and should be able to do. So through all this work, we really toiled to come up with what are our core values? What is it that that will dictate what we do as a school, and not only what we do, but what we don't do. Because I think that's the harder part, is being able to say no. Because there's a lot of shiny things out there and companies that do amazing things, and they'll come in and say, hey, why don't you try this? I promise that you'll get a 10% increase in your math scores if you just try this program. And, we've seen it, and a lot of them are fantastic, but we needed a set of core values that would guide those decisions. And as a group, we came up with those three things. We did research at Etsy. We visited Etsy and toured and talked to many of their employees and executive team. We talked with many from Apple, from Google, from Adobe, and we realized that this idea of collaboration, being able to do cross-curricular and think outside of the box when solving problems, was a common theme with all of the research that we did. This idea of really getting and giving candid feedback, this idea of radical candor, was intertwined in everything that we looked at. And then this idea of original work, just not regurgitating something that's in the book, but actually truly thinking about what matters to our population, to our students, to our teachers, to our community, and how do we look at different pieces of evidence and work and text and come up with our own original work to support that.
Man, I just love everything that you're saying, because it is so much what we need to have in our schools, just plain and simple. So it seems like there's long process to go through, and I apologize for thinking that those were already there. The way you said them made it sound like that has been Tuacahn's core values for some time, which, just reiterates how much effort you've put into getting that. But like, what were some of the challenges of coming up with those core values? And obviously that took time, that took money, that took other kinds of expenses. What were some of the challenges that you faced in doing that?
I want to say, first and foremost, man, we had such an amazing group of faculty members who were bought into this and to this idea and this process. But it was tough. It was tough. I mean, we've been around for 17 years, and I think just we're comfortable in what we were doing, and students were comfortable, parents were comfortable, teachers were comfortable. And there's comfort in being comfortable, right? You know what to expect each day. You know what to expect from students. You know what to expect from faculty members, from administrators, from parents. And so that was a challenge. There were a lot of questions. We completely redid our schedule. We were on an A/B block. We're not now. We're on a hugely hybrid schedule. We go to school now from 8 to 4. We have our auditioned, performing, and visual art classes actually now are working towards performances within the school day. And
awesome.
We don't have bells anymore. So we disrupted status quo. And as we were going through that, kind of in that philosophical or hypothetical world, it's easy to talk about. It becomes really difficult to say, okay, we're going to do it now, because, that meant that we're not using textbooks that are 10, 15 years old. We're going to look at English texts that are current and, that students want to read, that they're excited about reading, that means something to their life, that we're going to attack social justice issues that are hard. They're hard conversations that require a keen ability to facilitate hard conversations. And then just, students, just that idea of unknown, the uncertainty, this is how everything has worked for so many years. Now we're kind of turning that upside down. So we had a few teachers that decided that it wasn't for them, and there was no hard feelings. I think that's important to say. They, for whatever reason, they were nervous and moved on to a different school, and wish them all the luck. But we found that there was we kind of awoke in our faculty this idea of learning, and so many of our faculty forgot what it felt like to go home and read a book that they were excited about that was going to impact them and they could share with students, or that they were going to learn with their students. And it was okay if a student said, "Hey, what does this mean?" And for the teacher to say, "I don't know, but let's figure it out. I have no idea. I've never heard of that, but it sounds interesting. So let's go for it." To be co-learners rather than experts. I think that was a challenge, in that it made some faculty members nervous, and then it just absolutely inspired others.
That is just so intriguing. I love that idea of awakening in the teachers a renewed joy in the process of learning. And I know for me, like, that's what this podcast and the leadership summit that I do, that's what those have been for me, is they have certainly awoken this joy in learning that I really tried to never not have, and I'm just so excited. I've got like a million questions. I don't even know where to start, and we're running out of time. But I think the thing that I want to do to just kind of put a bow on it is recognize that once you have some core values in place, then a lot of other decisions become easy choices. And, you've been there for a short time, you're making some pretty significant changes, but those didn't come from nothing. They came from a lot of hard work and recognizing what your values were. But then once you have your core values in place and you can talk about them, then it seems like it's a pretty logical next step to take action to show that your actions reflect your core values. Can you just comment on that? I'm fumbling around, but I'm sure you've got a better way to say that.
Yeah, that again, it goes back to that original question, why Tuacahn? And I would suggest, and it's hard, that's a hard question to answer. And I don't think you ever really arrive at the absolute answer. I think the goal is to strive to arrive at that answer. And that question in and of itself, in whatever context you put it, why Tuacahn, why college, why math, why geometry, I mean, whatever you want to say, I think that question creates uncertainty, but it's through that uncertainty that you can really start driving towards the solution of why. But it's a difficult question to ask, because we don't ever want to say, "Oh man, I've been in this field, I've been doing this work for 15 years or 20 years or 30 years," and to admit, "Oh man, I've got to pivot now and do something different." That's a tough thing to do. But like I said, when you have a set of core values that was formed kind of through this collective efficacy, through this group work and hard work, and I'll tell you, we sat in some of those meetings, and there was a lot of candor, there was a lot of emotion. Some of those meetings got intense, and I would keep saying they need to be intense, because if we're not emotionally passionate about what we're talking about, then obviously it's not important.
Yeah.
And that means that we're going to fight about it. And if we're not fighting about it, then it's not important and we shouldn't be doing it. And that was tough. But once, it's been so nice to use these core values, and again, to use the core values to say what we're not going to do. And some of those were, we're not going to teach this class anymore because it doesn't align to our core values. And, the question was, well, that's the most requested class that we have on campus. And the response is, it may well be, but it doesn't attach to the vision and the core values of what we do. It's not a decision for me as a principal to say, I don't like you or I don't like this class. Because that has nothing to do with it. It's, and I remember having this, this is a true story. I remember having the conversation with the teacher and asking the teacher, does this class meet our vision and does it help our core values? Does it align to the core values? And the teacher said it doesn't. I understand, and I'm okay with letting go of that class. And that's tough. That's a hard, that's a hard thing to say to a teacher who has invested time and energy and work and research into a class. And then conversely, to be able to say, we are going to do this because it attaches to our core values. And so to me, it takes the personal out of it in a way, but it aligns everyone. And so, it's an easy question to ask. Does this align to the core values? Does it align to our vision? Does it align to the why? And a lot of times the teachers will go, no, it doesn't. Never mind. I'm sorry I brought it up. Because we all have great ideas and we want to run those ideas. But it's just an easy, quick gut check for us that we didn't have before.
Well, that is really just so exciting on so many different levels and in so many different ways. I just think there's so much value in recognizing what your core values are and then making decisions based on that. And you mentioned, just as an aside, core values help us say no before, but then you really, brought that home right there at the end where you talked about not having a particular class because it doesn't align with the core values. And that is just incredibly powerful. So, Drew, thank you so much for your time today. I have learned a ton and I'm inspired. So thank you. The last question I ask is, what is one thing a principal can do this week to be a transformative principal like you?
Wow. That's a question right there. Never stop learning. I could list some amazing principals and teachers and educators and business leaders that I connect with on a daily basis to ask questions. Hey, what do I do in this circumstance? And I think just being willing to push pause and go to amazing leaders and visionaries in your community and outside of your community to just ask the question to get guidance has been tremendously useful for me and helped kind of shape this vision and this. And I'll say that I've called some of my trusted colleagues and oftentimes I get, Drew, that's ridiculous. I can't even believe you asked me that question, but it's a solid gut check because we have great ideas and some of those ideas are good and some of them are bad. And so I just think that, the more we network, the more that we're in this together and building together is absolutely the most valuable piece.
Yeah, that's awesome. So speaking of networking, how can people connect with you and network with you?
The best way, and it's been huge for me, is on Twitter, and love connecting with folks on Twitter. And my Twitter handle is Dr. Drew Williams, and would love to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for being part of the Transformative Principal podcast.
Thank you so much.
Really awesome conversation with Drew. I'm so glad that you were here to listen to it. Thank you so much for listening to Transformative Principal. If you have any questions, I would love for you to reach out to me at Jethro Jones on Twitter or drop me an email, jethro@paperlessprincipal.com, or you can even call me 801-7-JETHRO. That's my phone number. Pretty cool, huh? Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day, and thanks for all you do.
Transformative Principal is a proud member of the Education Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators by educators. Visit edupodcastnetwork.com for more great podcasts.